almost every last one of these episodes, we have a chihuahua at least walking in front of the door or screaming downstairs.
And he is currently screaming, so it fits.
We don't even know what he's barking at half the time.
Bruce likes to just bark at anything. It could be the wind. It could be someone walking. It could be a car driving by. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. He's just like, hey, you out there, minding your business. Fuck you.
Yeah, I swear when it's windy outside, he likes to run out in the backyard, even when it rains, and just start barking at the sky like, how dare you?
Yeah, it was raining late last night. We had a little passing shower here, and I'm in there watching TV, and you're in the other room, and you're like, is he outside screaming at the sky? I'm like, yeah, he is.
Yeah. That's something he did since he was a puppy, and he's never grown out of it, so...
I don't think we ever grow out of our puppy phase as people. I think we all have a puppy phase inside of us somewhere.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we've been doing this. This is our 11th episode of the podcast, by the way.
Wow. Well, probably not 11 with you and I, but 11 in general.
I think this is the fourth or fifth with you and I, something like that. Mm-hmm. We're about half the episodes, but I think we're going to probably go back to you and I for quite a while. And then, of course, bringing some people in, of course, from time to time.
Did you hear that? You guys are stuck with me.
Stuck with her, just like me. If I have to be with her, you have to be with her.
Wow. Feel the burn.
No, we talked about a lot of funny stuff on there, life lessons and stuff like that. But we decided that we don't really dive into the harder topics from time to time.
Ooh, are we going deep?
I think we're going to go deep, which might be the first time I can ever say that. Scratching the surface is just good enough, Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wrote down 3 questions, kind of 3 topics tonight. You want to hit them?
Sure.
So one of the things that I think about people growing up and our life lessons we have with each other and each individual experiences, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, babe. Of are personalities discovered or are personalities built?
That's actually a really good question. I think personally for me, I feel like personalities are built. I feel like throughout the years, but see, that's why I also feel like it could be discovered as well. And I say that because as you're growing, even now at the age of 39 for me, I'm still discovering new things, but I also feel like that builds the personality and the persona that I want to give out into the world, right? So, for example, when I was younger, I was very shy and timid and soft-spoken, huge people pleaser. And now I'm an observer, but when I get to know you, I am pretty talkative. I love to talk. And, I think I'm more patient now as well compared to my younger self. I don't think I really had any patience. So I think discover and built could kind of be in the same context, but I think you can discover different things, but you can build onto it, if that makes any sense.
It does, because I saw this question recently on a different platform, and I thought about it. I was like, I think that it can be a little bit of both. I think your personalities are mostly discovered through life itself, and I also think that a lot of your talents and your interests are discovered, or even rediscovered. I know that recently. Listen, I bought Pokemon cards recently. Because as a kid, I was into it, and I was like, just on a whim, I was like, I'm going to buy some Pokemon cards. And I think I'd almost rediscovered something in that, not necessarily like a personality, but an interest.
Do you think it's more or less maybe not an interest? Do you think it's more or less maybe nostalgic?
I think it's very nostalgic.
Yeah.
I think it is. And I think that if you seek to build a personality, I think that's where a lot of people go off the rails these days. Is there's a lot of these pressures to be a certain way, act a certain way. I think if you intentionally try to build a personality, I think it comes across as a little bit more ingenuine. Like it's not. It just feels engineered. Where I think if you, and I think it's just if anybody just chills out and relaxes and enjoys life to the best of their ability. I know that a lot of people are in stressful situations in their life, but I think if you just kind of figure out a way of, being present in the moment and discovering life itself, I think that you can probably discover a good personality about yourself, or an interest, or a hobby, or a skill. I never actually sought out to be a little home cook. The only thing that I ever did was I learned how to read directions on a box and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, I think I can kind of agree with you to certain aspects. Like I believe I agree with you. I think we're always still discovering, right? We're still discovering who we are. Do I truly know who Kasey is? No. Like I'm still discovering little things about myself, right? Things that I need to work on, things that I adore, things that I'm like, ooh, that surprised me, but I don't think a lot of people, I think in the aspect of what you're speaking in regards to like people who are rushing to build a personality, it can kind of go a little south. I think that's more or less people who are trying to not necessarily build a personality, but individuals that are trying to fit in, right? A lot of people who try to people please, or, and again, this is just my humble opinion. I think people who tend to be people pleasers, yes ma'am, yes sir type people, or people who want to have friends and fit in, tend to adapt to other people's personality and like take little bits and pieces from these individuals and like basically create their super person that they are. I don't necessarily think that's not authentic, but I do think you're not getting the true authentic person. Cause like, do you truly know that individual? I think that's when you later on down the road, once you get to know that individual more, you kind of realize like, hey, like something's missing here. So I think at the end of the day, I agree with you on certain aspects. I think we're all still discovering and building personalities and who we are. Heck, I might still discover who I am at the age of 70 if I'm still kicking around.
I think that's one of the cool things is we go through life, we experience new things, we find out more about ourselves, and you just kind of go from there. I'm not even remotely claiming to be what I call an elder millennial influencer, but maybe people will put in the comment section what they think about whether it's discovered or built. I don't know. I
mean, I think it would be nice to know other people's input as well, right? I mean, it's an open conversation, right? This is an open forum for an open conversation. I think sometimes it's nice to have conversations like this, and it's also, even as unpleasant as it can be, it's nice to have the uncomfortable conversations that you typically wouldn't have with your significant other or your friend or your coworker or Joe on the street.
Yeah. I don't want to skip past this because you said something that I think is actually really profound about building personality traits to fit in. I don't think that anybody should really try that. If you're the most genuine and honest version of yourself, I think you'll find your friend group. I think you'll find the people that you fit in with the most, and you'll find that little niche, whether it's a big group or a small group.
Yeah.
If you seek out the approval of others all the time, then you're just going to be, I would say, an incomplete version of you, but just be the weirdest, coolest, simplest version of yourself and just do whatever you do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that as older Kasey, but I would probably disagree with you for younger Kasey. I will say that me in high school was definitely the type of person who adapted to the people around me and kind of took their personalities. Like, I don't think people, maybe one or two people in high school really truly knew who I truly was. And honestly, I really didn't know who I was in high school, but I think it's easier said than done. Do you get what I'm saying? Because we live in this society where we don't we want friends. We don't want to be lonely. And then some media platforms make it seem like the more friends you have, the better, the cooler you are or whatever. So I just think at the end of the day, like, it's easier said than done. Like, younger me would have definitely adapted to everyone's personality to fit in, to have friends, because it gets lonely,
Yeah. I heard that on a different podcast recently that these days people are spending far less time with their friend group and engaging, actually doing stuff in person, just sending each other memes and reels. But you talked about growing and evolving over time. This is the second one that I wrote down here and we mentioned this on other episodes too, that we had gotten married fairly young. We got married right at 21 years old, and 18 years later, you're still putting up with my shit. So personal thank you, babe, for doing that.
Back at you.
So one of the things that we even talked about recently, that after so much time together, me being a science nerd as I am, I've read several things about your cell reproduction in your body. That about every 7 years, you're molecularly like a different person. That every cell in your body has to die and then regenerate, whatever else. So every 7 years, every cell in your body has at least gone through one life cycle, which is kind of interesting. But that we're not the same people that we were when we got married. And on the surface, that sounds kind of mean, but I don't think it is. It's not very naive. I think it's one of those things that throughout our lives, we've learned a lot about ourselves. Our life influences have changed us and molded us to who we are. But at the end of the day, we're still here together. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, that like it's okay to grow and be a slightly different person than you were when you got married. I think it's different if you're like, oh my God, he's changed or she's changed. Like, yeah, they have, but that's still your life partner, Yeah,
there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with changing. I think we all go through either growth spurts where we change because we're growing and we're maturing, or, you're just changing of the seasons. I don't know. It's just really based on what you want to go with. But, for you and I think, you stated it, we got married young. We were still doing self-discovery of ourselves. And then we had to also work on things that would work for our marriage at such a young age. We got married at 21. We had to learn communication. I mean, hell, we're still learning that to this day on how to communicate with one another. What triggers us? What are the stress points? What is the easiest way to bring up uncomfortable conversations? What makes us happy? What brings us joy in our life? So I think change is good. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen, whether it's for the good or the bad. I mean, hopefully it's for the good. But I think in our case, our change was as what's probably common for a lot of people who get married young. We grew up. I mean, you and I, we stated this all the time to family and friends, especially your parents. We basically raised each other, if you think about it. Yeah. We've been, this year we'll be married for 18 years.
Yeah. Sometime this year we would have lived with each other longer than I even lived with my parents.
Exactly. So we basically raised each other. And, we have similar family backgrounds. Like, there are some similarity as far as like how you were raised and how I was raised, but there's also a lot of differences, right? I have abandonment issues. I have like family trauma. Who doesn't have family trauma, right? So like, these are like, I never communicated emotions like growing up. Like, that was a huge no when I was grown up. Now, is that how my family life is now? No, we've all realized that's not the right way for us to do it. And I think those are things I had to learn with you. I had to learn to let down my walls. I had to learn to let you in. I had to learn to communicate with you. I had to learn to not be angry when I'm frustrated or, feeling unheard.
Yeah, and I think for me, one, I agree with all of that. For me, I think a lot of the communication stuff I had to learn as well. I can't say that we always had like the difficult conversations in my family. There's definitely one of those like, we'd rather not upset the norm or cause any sort of strange behavior. And I think that's one of the things that I carried on is like I didn't really even know how to start a hard conversation. And one of the things I had to learn with you and throughout conversations with other people was like, if you go in like, hey, I want to tell you something, but don't be mad. Like that's an immediate like, whoop, red flag.
Yeah,
like,
that's not a really good way to start any conversation. Like, hey, I've got news for you, so don't be mad. That's like basically that person preparing for the worst,
yes.
Which isn't really necessarily preparing them. It's just making them already like
your guard goes up.
They're heightened at this point.
And one of the things too that I think is not only unique to us in our younger marriage days, but for a lot of obviously younger married folks or recently married folks is the finance thing. Contrary to popular belief from a lot of people that I do comedy with, I was not born with the silver spoon. Very much so like trailer park raised kind of guy. And then, my father did a great job of applying himself and moved to the golf course or anything like that. But that's not where I started. I started in a small little trailer park in Spring Lake and had to work for everything we have now. Hard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The one of the things that I had to learn when I went to the Air Force is like coming from really nothing is how to properly do my own personal finances. Because I think I didn't really have a control method where it's like, hey, well, shit, I'm used to having nothing really as a kid. So now I have some pocket money in the Air Force and I'm getting paid regularly. Like I want to go spend it. Let's go out and, have some drinks. Let's buy a car. Let's buy this. Let's buy that. And then you're like, once you get married, you're like, it's not all about what I have and what I can spend. It's what can I bring into this family? What can I bring into this household? And having to learn how to do a budget and then say no to impulse buys and stuff like that. I think that's one of the things that I had to learn big time.
Yeah, I think any marriage goes through the finance talk, right? They say one of the number one marriage killers is finances. And I totally agree with that. Though, the first advice my dad ever gave us was always communicate with one another. And then the second one tagged along with it, make sure you communicate your finances. And he spoke about that from his experience. I think that finance is a difficult conversation because we live in a world where we want to live above our means because we see things on media platform and it looks so sparkly and pretty and I want to live that lifestyle. So like we live above our means and that's something you and I had to learn because we did struggle through that. And I wouldn't say in the beginning because in the beginning we were very responsible in the beginning. But I think as we gotten a little bit older, we got a little bit more greedy and that's where the irresponsibility came in. And that's where difficult conversations about finances came in. And I think it's just being open and honest with one another in regards to finances, what you actually can afford, what you can't afford. If you have a car that you're struggling to make the payments every month, like sell it, get something different. Like as crappy as that sounds, driving around in a little hoopty will be perfectly fine.
It still gets you there at the end of the day.
As long as you're getting to work and wherever else you need to go and your car's paid off or your payment's so small that you don't have to think about making your car payment, like that's what matters. As long as there's a roof over your head, food in your belly, and transportation, that's what matters. But finances is always a difficult thing. And it's always something difficult for people to learn. And hell, we're still learning it to this day,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we fail as a American society is really to establish what it is for your standard of living. And like, what do you need versus what do you want? Like this is like what, an iPhone 14 or something like that, like 13. I don't even know what this thing is. I'm sure there's a 17, there's gonna be an 18 and so on, but like, why do I care to get the newest of the new? Sure, I could go out and get it, but like this thing works just fine. It's, we got it through T-Mobile or whatever, right? And it's been paid off for years.
Yeah.
Why would I go out and get a new phone just because it has a newer camera on it, like a whiz bang thing? And so whenever we moved back to the Carolinas, whenever I left active duty, neither one of us were making a lot of money, and we had to set up our standard of living. What can we afford? And that's one of the things I'm very happy that we've done over the years is we really haven't modified our standard of living. We've lived in this house for 10 years. When I bought this, when we moved in here, like I was still contracting. We were still making very little money, and we haven't really changed. Yeah, could we move to like a big ass fancy house? Sure, but we're not because a little extra spending money here and there is really nice, or security.
Yeah, I think it just goes through the spiel of like social media, right? Social media plays a huge factor in how we spend. You see an ad, and you're like, "Ooh, that's cool. Let me get that." Or influencers that are suggesting products that work for them that may not necessarily be in your price range where you can impulsively buy something, right? I think also we have to take into account that inflation is a huge thing in our economic this day and age. Like groceries, we spend more money on groceries than we do on entertainment. Like, that's insane. $100 back in the day would have gotten you close to a buggy full of food.
Oh, for sure.
Now, $100 is probably maybe 7 items at the grocery store. And that's why it's crazy to me because I think of these things, the housing market's up, the interest rates are up, cars prices are up. You used to be able to find a new car for a banging new car for $30,000. If you want a nice banging SUV this day and age, minimum's going to be close to $42,000, So it's just the cost of living now is more than what it was before. And I do feel like obviously income wise plays a factor because, I feel like some employers have not increased the wage,
Yeah, unfortunate too.
So I just think that we do a good job in certain aspects of our finances. I do think we do a lot of impulse. We do a lot of impulse buying. There are things that we could cut out. There are things that we could just not buy. But, that's just life. The way I look at it is I'm not dead. I still have time to pay off debt if I have debt. And that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Well, I'm no Gordon Ramsay. I'm glad that we owe next to no money to nobody except for this house, I do believe. So you'd mentioned influencers. And before I jump on to the last topic here, one of the things that I've learned after running the Locals Comedy and doing social media stuff and kind of delving into this podcast world is you would be surprised at the number of people that you see online that are these influencers or these they're in a niche market or something like that where, believe it or not, all of that's fake. They may have a partnership deal. I mentioned the Pokemon thing earlier, right? There's tons of these guys out there and gals that are, they're deep into the collection. And it looks like on paper that, they're spending thousands of dollars in this hobby every month. Well, yes, they are because they have millions of views and they're getting subsidized through the views and the ads. But also they have a lot of partnership deals where they get products ahead of time and they're promoting things and they're pushing things. And that's not just in the hobby business. There's people out there who look like they go out and buy $20,000, $40,000 watches, or they buy these nice cars all the time. But the only thing they're doing is really advertising for that company. I'm going to such and such watch place today, and I'm going to buy a Rolex. They didn't really buy a Rolex. They look like they bought a Rolex, but in actuality, they just advertise for that business, and that's how they get by.
Yeah, I mean that's really the day and age that we live in now. Influencers are basically the new commercial ads on TV, if you really truly think about it,
Long
right?
form ads, yeah.
I'm not hating on an influencer. If that's how you bring the bacon home, then that's how you bring the bacon home. And obviously you're successful if you are able to collaborate or partner with one of these larger brands, you know?
I'll put this right here.
There's like lots of influencers I see online that do partnerships or collabs with certain makeup companies or home decor. And I think to myself, do they actually use the product? Because like when you typically do your get ready with me video or random live, you're typically using the more luxury brand versus something you can buy at Walmart. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things to me. It seems a little contradictory, but that's how they make money. And I'm not going to hate on them if that's how they bring home the bacon.
Yeah, it's
like
all about
if you make
themselves.
500 or, I mean, some of these brand deals, they actually make quite a bit of money. They make a lot.
They do, yeah, and they get a lot of free product too. So it looks like, as I said,
Well,
on paper,
I mean,
they've got-
most of the time when you do a collab or you do a partnership, the product is free to them.
the Chihuahua's downstairs screaming again at something.
Yeah, he's upset.
He's upset. I put up the little gate so they can't, get upstairs and trot around outside. So I think that's why they're upset.
I feel like I'd rather hear them trot upstairs than scream.
He'll live. We're on to the last question.
Okay.
So, or last topic or anything. The big one's going to start howling here in a second too. So why do we as people keep moving the goal line? And that's kind of a broader question of either we keep putting off stuff that we know we should be doing, or we're never just really happy with what we have and we keep I want to put like a little subtitle in here what they're saying. So why do we keep moving the goal line of either stuff that we know we should be doing or just never happy with what we have and we just keep saying, okay, I'm going to do this in the future. I'll do this in the future and whatever else.
I think there's a lot of factors into that. I think one, it could be you're a procrastinator. I procrastinate on things. And I mean, let's just take the laundry, for example. I always have the goal of having the laundry done on Sunday. I may wash the laundry, but I don't put them up. I feel like I should pause for a moment for them.
Yeah, we'll go to pause real quick so I can go tell them to shut the hell up.
I think there's a lot of factors in it, right? I think it could be either A, you're a procrastinator. For example, I procrastinate on certain things. Laundry is a big example because I may sit here and, wash the laundry, dry them, but I won't necessarily fold them and put them up. So I procrastinate on the last part of completing that task, right? Or it could be B, people could also move the goal line because they're trying to strive to do more, right? To accomplish more, succeed more. I think it just depends. I think it depends on the task. I think it depends on what you want. And honestly, quite frankly, I also think it depends on your mood.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree honestly with a lot of that too, because I'm a procrastinator in the sense of like, well, if I want to go to the gym 3 times a week or 4 times a week, I'm like, well, I'll just start that on Monday. Like, do you have to start everything on a Monday for the work week, or can you just go ahead and just do it now? Or like, well, I want to sleep in tomorrow. I know I got to get up and mow the grass. I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to find a reason not to do it, or whatever. But one of the things too that came to mind as I was reading that question is I think something that's kind of deeper than this, and then also maybe tie back to the previous one is we all, a lot of times as people assign these strange arbitrary timelines to our own personal lives, and where it's like, okay, by 25 I want to be married, by 27 I want to have kids, by 40, I want to do this. And by 55, I want to own my own house. And sometimes that shit doesn't happen. Sometimes you're 29, 30, 35 and still single. And then people have a lot of anxiety of being, in their 30s and unmarried and single. And I think that may be why people have a hard time finding that life partner in themselves, like either by themselves as your own personal life partner or with somebody else. Because there's always this stress of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm 34 and I'm not dating anybody. What's wrong with me?
I think that's where, if you really think about it, all three of your questions come into play, right? And I think, as weird as this is going to sound, I think that's where really media plays a factor in that too, right? You see these movies or these TV shows of these people who have timelines and they succeed in these timelines. And I think that, it could also be family related. Your family may have an expectation of you being a college graduate at this point in time and then into your career for like the first 2 years and then finding the love of your life and then a year later marrying that person and then 2 years later having babies. Like, I think family also puts an expectation on that. So I think there's a lot of environmental, as you could say, factors into it. That's probably not the right word, but I think at the end of the day, like, we put so much stress and anxiety on ourselves to meet certain goals and expectations. Like me, for example, I always say this, my biggest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist, but I'm not a perfectionist. I know I'm not a perfectionist, but I want to be a perfectionist. I want to know everything. I want to be able to do everything. I want to be able to be an amazing wife that can cook, clean, take care of the house, take care of everything, where my husband can just come home and relax, but also still work full time, still also have a social life, but I'm not a perfectionist and I can't accomplish all those things. I need help in certain aspects, right? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and I still make mistakes to this day. And honestly, I'll still continue to make mistakes. And that's where just the fact that we're humans come into play. And I think we just put so much stress and anxiety on ourselves to be this better version when you actually could be your better version right now, And just because you're imperfect doesn't not make you the better version of who you were the day prior or 5 years ago. So I think that we all need to just chill and just accept who we are and the fact that we are imperfect, even though we strive to be perfect. And I think that has a huge factor in a lot of stress and anxiety when it comes to timelines, approvals. I mean, people stress about finding the right partner too, so that their family and friends can, your family and friends have to, like, I know women who say that if they find a life partner and their family or friends don't approve said life partner, it's a wrap. Like, they're not going to marry them and they might as well end the relationship.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Yeah, I've seen that happen where, people that we even know are like, oh, I'm dating this guy and my friends don't like him, so I think I'm just going to dump him. That's not fair to you. It's not really fair to that guy or that gal, whoever, it is in the relationship. And I heard it, I'm probably going to butcher the shit out of it, but I heard something here a while back about whenever two people get married, you're not bringing somebody else into your old family, right? You're not, yes, I'm bringing you into my family and I was brought into your family, but we're also starting our own family.
We're
together.
Creating our own family. That's correct.
Exactly. So, you shouldn't have to feel the crazy pressure to go to every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. If you like, if somebody's like, oh, well, we do this because we did this in my family every year for Christmas or every, I don't really like it, but it's what the family does. Like, that's okay to say, like, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
You're starting your own family at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that aspect. I also personally want to do those things with my family and your family because we were raised in the military lifestyle where we weren't really around family for these things. I mean, luckily my in-laws did come out a lot for a lot of the major holidays, but you know, I enjoy spending time with family. I mean, I'm just giving my perspective on that. I mean, I agree with you. You know, you create your own family. This is typically it's you and me, family. Well, I mean, first is God, but anyways.
Well, I don't really have a better way of closing that out, babe. I think that was very. I have nothing else to add. I think that was very profound. I think that was really good. And I mean, the only thing I'd be doing is spend the next 2 or 3 minutes agreeing with you.
I guess I'm just more or less curious to know, is this something that the audience, which is typically 20 viewers,
sometimes we get 40.
Is this something that you enjoy, the deeper conversations? I mean, I know we've hit finance quite a few times in a previous podcast episode, but is this something you like, or do you like more of the fun, loose bits?
Yeah. I don't know. We can balance it out. Maybe we can just have people let us know, or they can comment their deep questions that they would like us to answer.
Maybe next time that's what we should do. I mean, we do have friends on social media.
Yeah.
Maybe we just post on our own personal stories like, hey, next podcast, like we want to answer some questions, some Q&A. Yeah. I've always been fascinated when influencers do that, because I actually do find it because, you know, when you watch certain people on Instagram or YouTube, you kind of feel like you are their family or friend. So like, I'm curious to know their questions and answers that the questions that people ask and their answers. So yeah, maybe we should do something like that.
This is a table for a reason. You know, just because you're not sitting here with us doesn't mean you can't interact. So yeah, I think I'll let you have the last word tonight. But I think as far as me, I think we covered a lot of good stuff tonight. I think it's one of those things. It's like, just be present, live your best life that you can. You can only affect today and influence tomorrow. What happened yesterday is yesterday. And keep your chin up and keep going forward. Babe, what do you got to say?
The only thing I will say is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to just be you. All
right. Well, with that, welcome to episode 1 of This Therapy Life with Mitch and Kasey. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.